La traduction, je crois qu'il faut appuyer ici, parce que là on n'entend rien, mais est-ce que c'est parce qu'il y a tout le monde? Je sais pas, mais normalement il faut
là-dessus.
Voilà, démarrage sous-titres. Hello. Hello. Mais c'est censé. Ah oui, voilà. C'est parce que j'ai pas parlé fort, mais...
Et comment ils savent quand on démarre dans l'ancien enregistrement? Ça commence à enregistrer avant, et puis après ils coupent.
Oui, ça c'est Karine et Anna qui gèrent.
Ça marche.
Ouais, donc normalement il faut juste appuyer sur CC. Puis bah je m'asseyerai si jamais... Par là, bon. C'est bon, je trouvais une place.
We're gonna wait like 3 minutes for the last people to come. You will take about 40 minutes. Yeah, no problem. And then we'll have some time for the questions and all. We have to. Both of us will sit there. And then, okay. There's Jean and Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre. Bello vedere. Sono emozionata.
Perfect. Okay. Je disais à Laura, vous savez que vous êtes en train de vieillir quand la police de vos textes devient de plus en plus grande. We have to go through this. So, Mr. Vice Rector of the University, Mr. Dean of the Faculty, ladies and gentlemen, Vice Deans, Madam Co-Director of the Institute of Psychology, Professor Soresi, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and a pleasure for me to introduce Professor Laura Nota from the Larios Lab for Career Research and Intervention at the University of Padova, and to celebrate with you today the recognition of her work by our university. Of course, I'm aware that the official ceremony is tomorrow, but for me, this is the real deal. This is the private party for the passionates that brings us together. Professor Nota's scientific achievements require neither introduction nor demonstration. Her remarkable publication record and her leadership within international scientific networks speak for themselves. So instead, I would like to use this moment to highlight some qualities that may not appear through a CV, yet are equally worthy of a doctorate honoris causa. I wish to salute her engagement as a citizen in favor of social justice and inclusion at a time when our societies are increasingly marked by inequalities, conflicts, and polarization. I admire her persistent strive to support younger generations in imagining and building a sustainable and meaningful future when others surrender to cynicism or despair. I also wish to honor her efforts to disseminate empirically grounded and critically informed knowledge amid a flood of alternative facts and false narratives. Beyond these intellectual contributions, I would also like to acknowledge her generosity and courtesy as a colleague and a mentor, always available to peers, always supportive of younger researchers, always keeping her smile even in heated debates. For 20 years now, her contributions and collaborations with our institution have been sustained, fruitful, and deeply enriching. In today's academic environment, where individual performance and competition often prevail, I believe such a collaborative spirit is both rare and precious. So, standing before you today, just before Laura's lecture, I find myself experiencing a mixture of emotions, ranging from pride and joy to a certain degree of anxiety and febrility. Pride because I'm active in a discipline with the potential to address both individual needs and societal issues, and seeing so many colleagues from different disciplines gathered here today reminds me that this aspiration extends far beyond my own field, and it is shared by the entire UNIL community. But also some anxiety, because I know that Laura's work challenges us to lift our heads and confront the long road still ahead of us. Yet perhaps this is precisely the responsibility we accept when we choose to face adversity rather than look away. So, grazie mille, Laura. Thank you very much for helping us keep our eyes open, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Korosh, for these beautiful words. I have a big emotion, and it's a very honor for me to be here. And I would like to begin with some words of thanks, because being here today is the result of interactions with so many of you. First of all, I would like to thank the rector of this university, Professor Frederick Herman, Vice Rector, Professor Jérôme Rossier, the Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Prof. Emmanuel Bell. Okay. The co-directors of Institute of Psychology, Professor Maria del Rio Carral and Professor Rémi Amorou. And my colleague here in Lausanne, so Professor Jean-Pierre Danwalder, Jérôme Rossier, Jonas Masdonati, and Korosh Masraoudi. We have known each other for 20 years ago. It was around springtime when we met for the birth of the International Group for Life Design, which includes other dear colleagues, Jean Guichard, Mark Savicas, Maria Edoarda Duarte, Anna-Lies van Vianen, Roel van Esbroek, and Salvatore Soresi. A moment for Salvatore. I graduated, I specialized in psychotherapy and completed my doctorate with him. He taught me a lot, in particular to fight for equality and freedom. In 1970, he participated in a hunger strike for the adoption in Italy of a law regarding the inclusion of children with a disability in school. And here there is Luigina Fanin, his wife, who supported me so much. So thanks to all of you. In returning to this wonderful university, I recall the studies on the complexity and non-linearity of Jean-Pierre, and well as of the All Life Design group, a turning point in career guidance. And the studies of Jean Guichard on life design for sustainable development, which also was very important for our laboratory. And the study today's on decent work, inequality, precariousness, and the difficulties of building the future by Jérôme Rossier, Jonas Masdonati, and Korosh Massaoudi. We share values and a commitment to build a better society. And we, together, have created a diverse project. The European Society for Vocational Designing and Career Counseling in 2011, which brings together researchers in this field from across Europe. The ECADOC project, which brings together doctoral students and researchers in this field. And the project, a project that extends beyond European borders, such as the UniTwin project. And all these actions involve many other colleagues from all over the world, with whom I had the pleasure and the honor of working. I mentioned some names here in the slide, and I would like to thank them all. And regarding Italy, I would like to thank my university, my department, my director and colleagues, and also the former rector of Padova, Professor Rosario Rizzuto, for his commitment to inclusion and his support for so many innovative projects, as well as colleagues, administrative staffs, and students with whom I worked when I was the delegate for inclusion. And of course, our Larios laboratories and all the researchers inside it, the Italian Society for Vocational Designing and Career Counseling and its executive board, and a lot of practitioners we are working with, the Inequality and Diverse Forum, the journalists of La Cura del Vero, and the Fondazione Nervo Pasini and the Diocese of Padova for the battles we are fighting against inequality. And finally, my family, especially Adriano and Valeria, and to everyone here and those following us for your online, for your time and attention to this moment and presentation. And now my presentation. It is divided into 3 parts. I will begin with some concerns we have, which we are studying in our Larios laboratory. I will examine, for the second part, some consequences for people. And third, I will explore insight from international literature and some of our suggestions and ideas for transforming our society. Because we do not like our society as it is. We would like a society more equitable, inclusive, free, peaceful, and capable of ensuring a good future for everyone. So we can start with the concerns and these reports. They tell us about the future. They describe the wonders of technology, of big corporations, jobs we should do, skills we should have, soft, STEM, digital, what we should do in our free time, and how to live with universal income for those who lose their jobs. There is also sustainability, so they advise us how to live in 15-minute cities, how to be sustainable, not to pollute, and so on. And school, university, career guidance should convince younger generation to follow these recommendations. What's the problem? In our view, in these reports, there are pieces of knowledge missing. We all know that social phenomena, technology, and so on, have positive and negative aspects. But these narratives tend to focus mainly on positive aspects and are prescriptive. Little attention is given to dark side, the problematic issues, and to the people involvement. They give no space for the co-creation of option, no participation, no voice. This is what we consider wrong, a sort of manipulation. And I would like to discuss or consider with you some dark side that are not so often mentioned. We start with the awareness that we live in the Anthropocene. We are the latest species to appear on Earth. We are the smallest percentage, but we play a significant role in shaping life on the planet and, above all, destroying it. But some colleagues encourage us to consider that the destruction of the planet is not due to the humanity as a whole, but rather to a specific part of it, and its neoliberal and capitalistic socioeconomic structure. We have a minority with a lot of power that profits for human beings, their labor, and nature. A minority with a lot of power that profit from human beings and accumulate wealth, and does not restore or regenerate our planet. A minority does not care about the rights of the life of human beings, animals, or plants. These issues is associated or linked to the concentration of wealth. This minority, in the last 30 years, increased its economic freedom, reduced the rules that limited it. Some researchers argue that we have now the law of the strongest, or the law of the jungle, along with free movement of capital and the creation of monopolies which favor the concentration of wealth. So, big fish eat small fish. Big company eat small companies. Mega corporations have greater freedom to cut costs, exploit labor, reduce rights, and create non-decent work from the north to the south of the world. And all this requires a lot of homo adaptus, someone who does not ask a question, who is passive, trapped in the precariousness, and who has no opportunity to reflect on a better future or a better society, with low levels of well-being and mental health. In addition to this, there are other two phenomena: financialization and digitalization. As regards the first one, the last frontier of accumulation is financialization. If until a few years ago we had an economy based on this formula, where money was invested in the production of goods to generate more money from their sale, today we have a new formula, M1 and M2, with money being invested to generate more money. What is important is immediate profit. The long term does not exist. And of course, the big fish organize themselves, setting up investment funds that buy struggling companies in order to restructure them and sell them at higher prices. To do this, they fire employees, outsource services, and create monopolies. Small and medium-sized businesses that do not want to deal with venture capitalists or investment funds face difficulties and close down. In Italy, small family-run pharmacies and small veterinary clinics are disappearing. Small business owners, shopkeepers, doctors, engineers, and lawyers are becoming employees of big corporations. They are losing their independence and becoming dependent workers. They are facing job insecurity and the fear of financial hardship. So basically, nobody is safe anymore. And the big fish are forming alliances with governments, and we have a new trend in Western countries. Welfare benefits are cut, health care and pensions are privatized, so citizens must use their saving to pay for health insurance and pension funds in order to receive medical care and secure their retirement, thereby impoverishing themselves. And the last frontier is saving, not just of the middle class, but also of the poor, who are forced to open a bank account and save money in order to receive public subsidies. Saving is not anymore a part of family planning, a way to achieve goals. It has become a goal itself. So, in addition to be adaptus, a person must also be financial. The person must learn to save to invest in financial funds and insurance without asking too many questions, without wondering where the money comes from or where it goes. What you see here in this slide is a financial education program for middle school students, developed by Consob, the Italian Securities and Exchanges Commission. Its goals are truly astonishing. The second factor is digitalization and AI. As we all know by now, reports from the World Economic Forum and numerous research studies today indicate that automation is increasing not only in the low-skill sector, but also in high-skill sector, such as technology, communication, finance, and science. But what they don't tell us are things like this: premature deprofessionalization, or artificial intelligence is reducing well-paying jobs in the high-skill sectors, discouraging young people from investing in their education. In Italy and the US, this phenomenon has already started. In addition, digitalization and AI are turning specialized skill into commodities accessible to everyone. As a result, the value of possessing such skills collapses. Since they are no longer scarce. We are seeing a collapse in the educational index return on investment, with university degrees losing their value even before graduates enter the job market. Consequently, families are wondering whether it makes sense to go in debt to pay for their children's education. And in this period, now young people are asking themselves, what's the point of studying? And this is a terrible question. We also know that digitalization is linked to misinformation, fake news, and the construction of ignorance. Proctor talks about agnotology, the science of the ignorance construction. Moreover, we are overwhelmed by conflicting messages, hate speech, biased information, manipulated images, and so on. None of these help us understand the world we live in. On the contrary, all of these contribute to fostering simplistic thinking and a warlike individualistic mindset that puts one person against another. None of this help us live in a democratic way or think about what we can do together. Other colleagues speak of elite capture, that is, narratives created by a minority that trap people in issues of little importance, while freedom, equality, democracy, and peace disappeared. So, an ignorant homo with simple thoughts and no critical awareness. As you can see here in the slide, there are some results regarding young adults. Those who adhere to this idea of homo economicus are also more prone to war, give less consideration to inclusion and sustainability, and are more cynical. These findings are very similar in adolescents and adults. And now some consequences. What does all this imply? As highlighted by our colleague at the University of Lausanne, this is associated with distress, dissatisfaction with work and school, mental health issues, cynicism, and feeling trapped in an eternal present. But perhaps we should also consider other consequences. I wonder if what Piketty wrote already in 2018 is becoming true, or are we returning to the days of Papagoriot, of Balzac, when it was more advantageous for younger people to marry into high society than to pursue an education? What will happen to equality? What will happen to the leveling effect of schooling? And we wonder if the idea of Palantir prevail, or the idea that technology development is above everything else, eliminating pluralism and democracy. Will we still be able to speak of freedom? And third, we wonder, when elite funds big corp with their automated production will no longer need workers, what will happen to our aspiration, our dreams, and our imagination of our place in the world? We are experiencing not only growing inequality and vulnerability, but also a decline in equality, social justice, and freedom. We are making it difficult for everyone to imagine and to have the right and freedom to imagine different and alternative future. And I would like to spend a moment on imagination. Social science showed us that we imagine based on what is available to us. What is made available and what is made invisible determine what we can imagine and what we cannot imagine. Closer and colleagues with college students, and we at Larios Laboratory in a pilot study with high school students, highlighted the tendency of young people to imagine dystopian vision of the future rather than utopian ones. They have catastrophic social and environmental visions and struggle to imagine a path toward a better future. It is clear that imagination is no longer safe. It has become one of the main battlegrounds of contemporary power. So we must free imagination and allow everyone in equal measure to use it. In our view, we must help people to escape the mainstreaming narratives, there is no alternative mindset, and the myth of individual responsibility, which don't question anything and serve to maintain the status quo. Don't help us to co-create other vision of the future. And what can be done? A lot of things. Steps are already being taken. The studies and recommendations from our colleague at the University of Lausanne are particularly interesting. The research by Jérôme Rossier and colleagues on decent work, on taking ecological limits into account, and on the need to put humanity at the center. The study of Jonas Masdonati and colleagues on the dignity of work and educational experiences, dignity as a tool for fostering aspiration. The study of Massaudi and others invite us to view vulnerability as a contextual phenomenon, not only an individual one, that traps people and requires structural changes. In addition to this, there are other suggestions from other colleagues, such as the proposal for critical conceptual framework for dignity at work of Bluestein and colleague, the invisibility work test framework by Flores and colleagues, the Robert Lenz recommendation regarding the updating of career intervention models to better assist people and so on, the call of Ronald Sultana and many others to prioritize social justice, critical consciousness, decolonization, and intersectionality. All these points are very, very important. And now we add some our idea to all these important suggestions. Our commitment to social justice, inclusion, and vocational design 5.0 start from here. We believe it is necessary to return to fundamental issues such as equality, social justice, freedom, along with peace, nature, inclusion, and democracy. We must study them in a complex and pluralistic way, reduce the invisibility of some of their conceptualization, provide people with frames of reference, offer examples of experience that already embody alternative ideas, and stimulate the process of imagination. At least at minimum level, we need to add ideas to neoliberal and liberal ones. And, for example, we can consider social justice. We conducted diverse pilot projects, some designed to assess how much people know about these issues and others aimed at fostering knowledge and imagination. As regards social justice, right here in Lausanne, last July, we presented diverse conceptualization of social justice, from liberal and neoliberal perspective to those of the church social doctrine, as well as transformative approaches focused on recognition and redistribution, and even eco-transformative ones. We also presented some preliminary data on how well university students understand social justice. As you can see, they know very little about it. We show that 30% of university students could not define it, and the rest, despite the different definitions available, tend to focus primarily on equal opportunities for access to employment, which is the mainstream definition in neoliberal thought. And now, today, with you, I would like to focus on freedom. There is a lot of talk about freedom. It is something we really value. Generally speaking, there is a consensus today that freedom is associated with choice. So when we talk about freedom, we think of freedom of choice, to be free, to do and act. But today there is too much emphasis on this idea of freedom. Freedom must not be regulated or limited. And today we believe that freedom means being able to do and be whatever we want. But here there is the problem. This certainly is true for a part of population, the minority we talked about, who have significant economic resources and considerable economic freedom, and who shape the choices and the narratives. But for the majority of people, this freedom does not exist. We are forced to choose among a few options which are decreasing in number and quality, and which we do not help to co-create. Zizek calls this the illusion of freedom. Unfortunately, the illusion of freedom is also linked to passivity. While we believe we are making choices, we fail to question what is happening. The erosion of rights and dignity in school and work that becomes producing weapons, the suffering of animals, deforestation, and so on. While we believe we are choosing, we do not realize the prisons we are trapped in. If we want freedom to become a stimulus for the imagination, we must know the concept in depth, in all its diverse and even contradictory aspects. It is a rich and complex concept with many meanings that are unfortunately little known. And I would like to share with you some ideas of diverse conceptualization, but please keep in mind that there is much more to it. A first definition, neoliberal freedom, the idea of absolute freedom. I do whatever I want. It glorifies individual choice and self-interest, but it diverges from equality and democracy. It does not consider other persons and other forms of life. It is the extreme form of liberal ideas of freedom. And now, liberal idea of freedom. This concerns the distinction between negative freedom and positive freedom. The former is the ability to act without impediments and prohibition and without constraints. The latter, in a more recent Western interpretation, concerns will, autonomy, self-determination, and the ability to establish goals. Between the 40s and the 70s of the last century, this freedom was balanced by equality, and this allowed the birth of social rights. But there are other meanings. For example, Republican freedom. Here, freedom means non-domination. It seeks to reduce asymmetry. A person is free if he, she can look another person in the eye without feeling the fear that the other's power might entail. Republican freedom also calls for the co-construction of option. It wants equality and democracy. Social freedom. Honneth argues that individual freedoms are realized in the social sphere through mutual recognition. We cannot be free without recognizing the freedom of others, and this is an essential condition for others to recognize our freedom as well. Value is placed on mutual dependence and human vulnerability, so freedom is cultivated in spaces that give attention to the needs of everyone above all. Another one, ecocentric freedom. Here, a new we emerge, not just human beings, but all living beings. The pattern of oppression that characterizes the relationship between humans and nature must be broken. The slow violence against nature and the holocaust of animals and plants must be overcome. So it is a more complex freedom that takes into account the lives of animals, plants, as well as rivers, mountains, forests, oceans. Situational freedom. It proposes the idea of relative and contextual dependent freedom. It is a beautiful paradox. Human beings learn to be free through socialization or through their dependence on others. And now, other idea that go beyond the Western world, the concept of freedom of other culture, very, very interesting. Just one example, the idea of freedom in Chinese culture. Chinese society has developed a concept of freedom that differs from the Western one. Freedom is not an individual property, but a collective and public one. It is realized through the building of an harmonious community. It requires limiting the freedom of those who do not use it for collective purposes, even if they are emperors or intellectuals. And so we began in our laboratory to wonder, how much do people actually know about this beautiful concept? So we involved another group of college students and asked them, if you had to describe the concept of freedom to someone, what would you say? The results clearly highlights a preference for neoliberal freedom, doing whatever we want, alongside the liberal one. Beyond that, there is little or nothing else. And this is a limitation for thought and consequently for the imagination. And it is clear that we have a lot of work to do. Concerning all this, we are working to develop and validate qualitative and quantitative instruments that examine different conceptual frameworks in order to help us to engage meaningful dialogue with people rather than simply profiling them. And there are diverse instruments on critical consciousness, the diverse idea of economy, diverse idea of social justice, of freedom, nature, and so on. And along with the instruments, we are organizing intervention and educational activities. But we are just getting started. We are at the beginning, and I'd like to share a couple of projects we are currently working on. The first project is the first project focuses on financialization and future. We are working with a group of journalists, researchers, social workers, and colleagues who are familiar with neoliberalism and diverse conceptualization of social justice. And we are exploring the concept of financialization, for example, finance freedom without rules, a financial system that shapes the food we eat, that impoverishes farmers by controlling seed ownership, that drives gentrification in our cities and create housing crisis for many people and students. A financial system that is moving into university. In Italy, we have online university owned by financial funds. And there is a big debate over the quality of teaching and research in these universities. And into school. Private schools from kindergarten through high school are already owned by financial funds. A financial system that forces families into debt for healthcare and their children's education, and take profit from this by turning the debt into financial assets. In short, a financial system that invades our lives and creates poverty. And we are discussing other ideas of finance. Finance and social justice focus on redistribution and recognition. Finance that does not exist yet, but that prioritizes human and the planet and creates or are interested in new jobs that can support it. From here, we are envisioning the development of a new financial education program for a younger generation that is looking toward the many desirable future. And this is an open project for everyone interested in. The second project is on postgraduate training for career counselors and experts in this field. We examine diverse conceptualization of economics, social justice, freedom, and career counseling. We examine also existing initiatives of alternative economies and eco-transformative justice. In other words, we are examining the ideas of multiverse or pluriverse, that is, different social economic structure that already exist in different parts of the world. We explore new conceptualization of plants and animals, such as plant democracy, their ability to live in a democratic and inclusive way, and to provide mutual and universal support. We consider recent discussion about plants and animals that have sensation, imagination, and rights, and the constitution that take all these aspects into account. For example, the Constitution of Bolivia and the Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth, which calls for a change in the relationship between humans and nature. We examine another example, La Via Campesina, a way of practicing agriculture in diverse parts of the world that is independent from financial funds. This conceptual richness fuels thought, hope, and imagination. And we explore diverse ideas of vocational guidance, the neoliberal approach, matching, profiling, which aims to shape the adaptive, passive, and financial homo, the liberal approach centered on choice and personal empowerment, and we give attention to what we call the vocational design 5.0, that focus on the complexification of thoughts, critical consciousness, knowledge of fundamental issues such as equality, freedom, and so on, and on imaginative process. We have the idea of career counselor as catalyst for imagination. And these practitioners are developing new vision of their own future, of their own work, exploring ways to engage young people, family, children, young adults in laboratory, workshop, and counseling section focus on complexity, pluralism, and alternative approaches to work and study. A very beautiful experience. In conclusion, we need more culture, we need more knowledge, even new and open theory that ensure affordance, a concept that Salvatore likes a lot, or spaces for concrete complexity, opportunity to examine theme and concepts from a diverse point of view, disciplinary pluralism, and the querying of ideas. We must make visible what has been made invisible. To move beyond mainstreaming narratives, there is no alternative mantra and the myth of personal responsibility. to open up new spaces for imagination and cultivate the imagination. Referring to Habermas' ideas, we wish to help create a democratic public sphere, a space where citizens capable of critical thinking and alternative imagination can debate on equal terms, collectively contributing to the definition of the common goods and the horizons of the future. And finally, we are, of course, taking a stand. While we value pluralism and complexity, we are not neutral. We declare that we stand for transformative social justice, for ecological and social freedom, for inclusion without borders, for nature and its right to live not for the benefit of humans, and for democracy in all places, for peace without any if or buts. We believe it is essential that, in front of the evil we are facing, we cannot and will not remain indifferent, but must do our part to imagine and build different future and different society. Merci for your attention.
So I think we have 10, 15 minutes to take questions. Then we move out to have a drink, and you can pursue your questions, but maybe with a little wine or something. So please. My colleagues have microphones. They can pass them out if anyone.
Good evening. As far as I can understand your presentation, it looks like it's being directed to citizens, foremost citizens or students or researchers. What about politicians?
A very good question. We think that this could involve, should involve politics. Politics men and women, we hope, we try. In Italy, it's very difficult to discuss this type of theme and concepts with the political part of our society. We have the impression that they know not so much about them, and they need to know a lot. If we can't work with them, we try to work with the other part of population. If you have some suggestion, I'm very happy to hear.
Questions?
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your talk and all the references you gave. We have a major piece of work ahead of us to deconstruct the mental models, and of course there were many mental models that you mentioned. Where would you start? Is there some kind of sequence for this transformation of deconstructing mental models? You can't just deconstruct a mental model. You need to make people aware, and then you need to replace it with something else. So do you have an idea in what sequence? How do you actually do that in practice?
Another very interesting point. We do not have sequence. We begin where we can. If we can with career counselor, we begin with them. We have the opportunity, when I was a delegate for director, to work with journalists. Begin with a journalist, and now we have a big group we are working in. We can work or have the opportunity to work with some schools and create some laboratories for the students, also for the elementary, the primary school and kindergarten school, teacher and so on, where we have possibility to begin to move in this direction.
And in terms of the specific area that you're trying to dismantle or make people aware of, are we talking about more general concepts like what is morality, what is ethics, what are values, what is freedom, or more specifically what is a good life and what are needs and satisfiers? Or are we talking about how we talk to each other, what is a proper democracy, how do we value each other?
Good. I think that the diverse, your suggestion, we consider the three of these. So sometimes we begin with some lessons, if we have the possibility. In other moments, we begin with some focus groups and open discussion, but then we have to go more in depth with the person because the person do not know so much of this argument. And sometimes we have the possibility to begin with some instruments and begin with qualitative or quantitative instruments. So depends if they are children, if they are just some sort of person that have something in mind. It's a depend. But the diverse idea could be good in an open way, I think.
Thank you very much. I have a very big and concrete question. What is your opinion about in artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence? We struggle with it here at the university. We have to write some regulations about the use by the students, but also the role of this technology in the professional world and perhaps also in our private life.
Yes. Another good question, because we discussed about this in every moment of our life. Yesterday evening with Salvatore, Isabella, and so on, and Luigina, we are discussing about that. What we can do. We have a beautiful things, but also negative things in our hands. Is able to create a lot of positive things for the humans and planets, but also a lot of bad things. Probably we need to move on and not remain at the level of positive and negative, and try to have future scenarios, diverse future scenarios, and verify the rules and the things that we can do to manage this possibility that we have. I don't have the answer. I am experienced some positive aspect, but a lot of negative aspects. I teach to psychology this year, and they describe me that there are a lot of platforms that make the work of psychologists. There are person in the dark side of this platform on the other part, but sometimes is growing the artificial intelligence that give emotional responses, that prepare counseling section for the person. The job of psychologists with a big question point. How we can manage this with the students? It's a big issue, and I think we have not the student first of all, but we as academics, researchers, persons that are thinking, that we know a lot of things. We need to give diverse suggestions and ideas to manage this type of things that we have in front of us. We have in Italy more or less every day some companies that push away the engineers, the person that do financial jobs, administrative jobs. Because are growing, growing. Okay, and then they arriving at a university, because in the private university it's not necessary to have a lot of teachers. Could be 1 for 6,000 of students. It's not necessary to have one teacher for 100 students, but for 60,000 of students. So our work disappeared. The other day I was discussing with some colleague about a research project to send to the Ministry of Research, and they are speaking about that artificial intelligence could write the project. Okay, and what we are doing here? We are not necessary anymore. Oh, it's incredible. I read theses written by artificial intelligence from my students. One student have a citation of a book of Van Hayek, that is an economist of the last century, the year for the schiavitù. Sorry, I don't know in English. A very important book in economy, a psychologist that is doing her master thesis. It's incredible. Where do you find this citation? What do you know of this book? Did you read this book? Huh? No, my colleague that are in the Department of Economy sometimes do not know anything about these colleagues. So it's not accessible, non è accettabile. I can't accept this type of thesis. What have to do? I say, no, you do not take a degree.
Laura, if I may ask you a question, as much as I appreciated your presentation, it was beautiful, but it did trigger some anxiety in me, as I expected. Could you tell us about your hopes? How much do you have still hope that this is possible, that change is possible, that things can be done?
Sometimes I have no hope, but when I speak with Salvatore, my hope grows. And when I try to ask to myself, or we ask to ourselves, which is our roles, like researchers, academics. This is our roles is to be something like Antonio Gramsci. So we need to speak with the person about these issues, these important issues, not important issues, about AI, digitalization, financialization that create poverty in every part of Western country and the other part of the world. We have to create a new mentality about this. If the person knows this, probably we can create alliance, we can speak about new research projects, we can create new courses, we can push our political persons towards a new direction. Probably is one of the latest things that we can do. Or we remain passive. No, we are paid not to be passive. We are paid to be active. We try.
Thank you, Kourosh. I had the same question, but I will ask a more personal question. I like your presentation very much. I agree with everything you said. I'm not so hopeful. And I mean, you mentioned it's important to be open to complexity, to respect each other, and so on. So how do you respect political leaders, financial leaders, how to cultivate empathy for them? I do not have any more for them, and I'm struggling with that.
I'm struggling too. Sometimes I do not have some respect for them. It's very difficult for this rich person that destroyed all and became more rich and more rich. I try to teach this to my students. At the end of the last course on inclusion, my students, I do not say nothing, ask nothing, arrive with a lot of alternative economies around the world. And they describe me. There are diverse economies. We have to work for them. So probably if we stimulate critical awareness, the idea that there are alternatives, there is no alternative, it is not good, probably we can stimulate this, and probably this person can go to political side of our society and try to change. We push the better person that are in Italy to try to do something. It's not simple. There are not so many, 1, 2. But we are put at the margin, remember. When we do this, we are out of sight. Don't worry. In the margin, we work very well. We work very well.
So maybe one last question before we move on. And of course, the last one is the most important, the most.
Thank you, Laura, for your beautiful and stimulating conference. You spoke of freedom. Do you think that now, already now, and in a near future, many universities will have freedom to develop the program you mentioned?
Big question, Jean. We are not so freedom. We are aware of this. We are following the money because we don't need anything. We don't have young people with us. We are helping the big corps. We have to discuss this and discuss this on the sun in an open way. It's a very negative things that public university are not so free and have this sensation of oppression to go to follow the money. Not follow the money.
I'm glad at least we had a little freedom tonight to listen to your talk, to have your ideas. Thank you very much. Laura, please join us for a little drink, and maybe you can also continue speaking or asking questions too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.